You've seen the photos. A Nile crocodile basking on a riverbank, eyes half closed. Tourists photographing it from a boat. The guides always say the same thing. They're sluggish. They only attack if provoked. Nobody on that boat is thinking about what happens to the woman washing laundry 50 meters upstream. Nile crocodiles kill more people every year than saltwater crocodiles and great white sharks combined. Not the crocodile you imagine when you think of danger. The one in the river where tens of millions of people have no choice but to go every morning. That routine has a body count. The Nile crocodile is responsible for an estimated 275 to 745 attacks on humans every year. 63% of those attacks are fatal. The saltwater crocodile, the one with the reputation, attacks approximately 30 people per year. Read that again? 30. The Nile crocodile attacks hundreds every year across 26 countries, and it kills a higher percentage of the people it touches than the saltwater crocodile does. Published research on crocodilian attacks states it plainly. Since the majority of fatal attacks are predatory in nature, the Nile crocodile can be considered the most prolific predator of humans among all wild animals. Not the most dangerous reptile, not the most dangerous predator in Africa, among all wild animals. Which raises an obvious question. If the saltwater crocodile is bigger, has a stronger bite, and gets every documentary ever made about dangerous crocodiles, why is the Nile crocodile killing more people? The answer has nothing to do with aggression. A fully grown male saltwater crocodile reaches 6 meters and exceeds 1,000 kilograms. Its bite force, measured directly in a landmark study by paleobiologist Gregory Erickson, is 3,700 pounds per square inch, the highest recorded bite force of any living animal. The Nile crocodile is smaller. A large male reaches around 5 meters and 750 kilograms. Its bite force measures approximately 3,000 pounds per square inch. That is still enough to crush bone, collapse a rib cage, and hold a struggling adult underwater with no realistic possibility of release. But the saltwater crocodile lives in remote coastlines and river systems in Australia and Southeast Asia. Where it overlaps with humans, warnings exist. Exclusion zones exist. In Australia, fatalities are tracked, publicized, and generate immediate emergency response. The Nile crocodile inhabits the rivers, lakes, and wetlands of 26 sub-Saharan African nations: the Nile, the Zambezi, the Limpopo, Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika, hundreds of smaller water bodies across the continent, and tens of millions of people who depend on those water bodies to survive. There are no exclusion zones. There are no warning signs. There is the river, and the crocodile that has lived in it longer than the surrounding civilization has existed. In communities along the Rufiji, the Zambezi, and the shores of Lakes Victoria and Tanganyika, water is not a recreational resource. It is where people wash, where they collect drinking water, where they fish, where children play. There is no tap. There is no municipal supply. There is no infrastructure that creates distance between the person and the river. The crocodile does not have to find people. People come to where the crocodile is every morning on a schedule the crocodile eventually learns. And the scale of that overlap is something most people outside these communities have no framework to understand. In Zimbabwe in 2005, in just the first 10 months of the year, crocodiles were the #1 cause of wildlife-related human deaths. 13 recorded fatalities in a single country in a partial year, from confirmed reports only. In Zambia, attack rates along Lake Kariba are described by wildlife authorities as frequent, with most incidents going unreported because the communities involved have no consistent mechanism for flagging them to national authorities. In South Sudan, a study of attacks in the Sud wetlands documented 23 human attacks in a 2-year period in a single study area, a fraction of the country's crocodile range. These are not remote regions sealed off from the modern world. These are active communities, fishing economies, families. The people at the water's edge are not there because they don't understand the risk. They are there because the alternative is not having water. And the animal that is waiting for them in that water is not there by accident or encroachment. It has been in that river since before the community existed. And that is where the question about aggression falls apart. The Nile crocodile is not more aggressive than the saltwater crocodile. It is simply never more than a few meters from people who have no choice but to be there. Which raises a harder question. If the attack rate is that high, why don't more people know their names? The Nile crocodile is an ambush predator. It does not chase. It waits. A crocodile can remain submerged with only its eyes and nostrils above the waterline for hours. A low ripple, a pair of eyes at the surface that most people don't register as anything worth attention. The pressure-sensing organs along its jaw can detect the vibration of a footstep on a bank from several meters away, underwater, before the animal is visible at all. By the time you see it, it is already decided. The attack covers several meters in under a second. The initial bite targets a limb or torso, anything within reach. The bite does not release. What follows is the death roll, a full-body rotation that dislocates joints, tears tissue, and disorients the victim in the same motion. Then the crocodile drags the prey underwater. The goal is not the bite. The goal is drowning. A person in the death roll is fighting an animal that weighs several hundred kilograms, generates 3,000 pounds per square inch at the point of contact, and is rotating its entire body mass around the hold. The only documented survival techniques, targeting the eyes or the pressure valve inside the throat, require a person to reach those points while being rotated and pulled under. Most cannot. Studies of fatal attacks found that crocodiles as small as 2.5 meters, animals weighing around 100 kilograms, are responsible for fatalities. It does not need to be a record-breaking specimen. It just needs to be in the water when you are, and patient enough to wait until the right moment. Average time from first contact to death in documented cases, under 4 minutes. That number is worth sitting with. 4 minutes is not long enough for help to arrive. It is not long enough for someone on the bank to reach the water, assess the situation, and intervene effectively. It is barely long enough for the person being attacked to understand what is happening. The crocodile does not need more time than that. The death roll, the submersion, the drowning. 4 minutes is sufficient. And survival rates reflect this. Of all large predator attacks documented globally, Nile crocodile attacks have among the lowest survival rates once the death roll begins. The exceptions, the people who lived, share a consistent pattern. They were not alone, and someone else was close enough to intervene within the first 60 seconds. Remove that variable, and the outcome is almost always the same. Which brings us back to the question of names. In 2018, Zanele Ndlovu, 25 years old on her honeymoon, was pulled from a canoe by a Nile crocodile on the upper Zambezi River in Zimbabwe. She lost her right arm. She survived. In 2019, Amelie Osborne Smith, 18, was attacked while swimming in the Zambezi. Friends pulled her free before she was dragged under. She sustained severe injuries to her hip, lower leg, and right foot. She survived. These cases reached international media. They involved foreign nationals. They were documented and followed up. Now, consider what the data shows for the same region in the same period, and for the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. A study covering Tanzania between 2010 and 2019 documented 575 crocodile attacks in a single decade. 58% were fatal. Children died at a higher rate than adults. The majority occurred at the water's edge, at the places people had no choice but to go. Researchers note that most of these incidents were never reported to national authorities. Many of the communities where they occurred have no consistent mechanism for recording wildlife fatalities. The victims are not logged in any database. Their names do not appear in any archive. They are estimated in aggregate, hundreds of deaths per year across 26 countries. But the individuals behind those numbers are largely invisible to the outside world. This is not a data collection problem. This is what it looks like when an animal kills people who don't generate coverage. People who wash laundry at the same river every morning. People who fish from the same bank their parents fished from. People whose deaths are real and documented locally, but never make it into the kind of record that international media or wildlife databases maintain. The saltwater crocodile attacks 30 people a year, and most of those attacks have names attached to them. The Nile crocodile kills hundreds, possibly thousands when underreporting is accounted for, and most of those deaths have nothing attached to them at all. That absence is not a gap in the story. That absence is the story. There is one case that has a name that has become something else entirely in the communities along Lake Tanganyika in Burundi. His name is Gustave, a male Nile crocodile formerly identified and named in 2001 by French herpetologist Patrice Fay, though records of attacks attributed to the same animal date back to at least 1987. Gustave is estimated at approximately 6 meters in length and 900 kilograms. According to Fay, he is 3 times the size of any other crocodile in Burundi. At that size, the fish and small mammals that sustain other crocodiles in his range are insufficient. His prey must be large. Humans qualify. Fay described Gustave's pattern to the BBC in 2002. He travels the Ruzizi River during mating season, taking fishermen and bathers along the route. Fay documented that 17 people had been killed between 2 points on the river during a period he was tracking the animal. Estimates of his total kill count begin at 60, with some accounts placing the figure considerably higher. Even the most conservative figures describe the number as a floor, not a ceiling. Multiple capture attempts failed. A baited cage was dragged into the river one night. The bait gone, the trap destroyed. He has been shot and survived. His hide carries the scars. As of the most recent records, Gustave has not been confirmed seen in years. Whether he is still alive, estimated, based on his size, to have hatched sometime around the mid-20th century, or has died of old age, is a question the river has not answered. But here is what matters about Gustave. He is not an aberration. He is not a rogue animal. He is what a Nile crocodile becomes when it survives long enough, in water abundant enough, to grow past the size at which the usual prey is sufficient. The kill pattern that defines him, patient, territorial, opportunistic, targeting the accessible, is the same pattern that produces hundreds of attacks per year from animals a fraction of his size. Gustave is the named version of what is always happening. Most dangerous animals on this channel became more dangerous through some kind of disruption. A bear habituates to human food. A hyena's habitat shrinks. An animal that evolved distance from humans loses it through contact. These are proximity problems, animals moving into human space under pressure. The Nile crocodile has not moved anywhere. It has always been there. The rivers it inhabits predate the communities built beside them. The lake shores it patrols have been crocodile territory for millions of years. Humans arrived later, built their lives around the same water the crocodile already owned, and have been absorbing the consequences ever since. In 2013, more than 10,000 Nile crocodiles escaped from Rakwena Crocodile Farm in Limpopo, South Africa, when floodgates were opened during heavy rainfall. Many were never recaptured. They dispersed into the Limpopo River system and the territory it connects to. Wildlife authorities tracked animals for years. Many were never found. That is not a historical incident. That is the current composition of one of southern Africa's major river systems, and the Nile crocodile has one more quality that most people don't account for. It learns. Individual animals establish home ranges and develop detailed knowledge of the territory, including the patterns of the humans who use it. Which part of the bank the fishermen use each morning, what time the children come to the water, the sound of laundry being washed. Research on crocodilian behavior confirms that large individuals in stable territories show consistent site fidelity, returning to the same ambush locations, adjusting timing and positioning based on what has worked before. This is not complex cognition, but it is pattern recognition applied to prey behavior, refined over months and years, in an animal that can afford to wait. The animal is not waiting randomly. It is waiting where experience has taught it that something will arrive, The person who comes to the same stretch of river every morning to collect water is not approaching an unknown risk. They are approaching a predator that has, over time, built an accurate model of their behavior. And that model is more detailed than anything the person has built about the crocodile. The saltwater crocodile is larger. Its bite is stronger. It is the more dramatic animal by every visible measure. It kills approximately 30 people a year, and most of those people have names in the record. The Nile crocodile kills hundreds, possibly thousands, when the full underreporting is estimated. A higher percentage of the people it touches, the water sources of tens of millions of people with no alternative. And it has been doing this consistently, without disruption, without being pushed closer by anything, for longer than most of the civilizations on its continent have existed. The saltwater crocodile gets the reputation, the Nile crocodile gets the body count, and the hundreds of people it kills every year, the fishermen, the children collecting water, the people washing laundry at dawn, they don't get a name in any record most people will ever read. That gap is not a coincidence. That gap is exactly how something can be the most prolific predator of humans on Earth, and still be the animal you've never heard of.